Got to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Vintage Rodgers turned into unfiltered Rodgers Sunday in Chicago. You saw it, yelling, "I own you" at Bears fans after scoring a touchdown that sealed the Green Bay win. Yesterday with Pat McAfee, Rodgers talked about what it felt like to walk off Soldier Field.
I was wondering what it would feel like to walk off the field, and in that moment, if it would feel like it was going to be my last time or not. And so I was generally looking forward to what that felt like. And the way I felt walking on the field was why I answered the question the way I answered it. It didn't feel like the last time, for whatever reason. I'm not sure why necessarily, but energetically it didn't feel like it was the last time walking off that field.
He's staying forever.
What is that supposed to mean? Tim Hasselbeck, I think of everyone, you had the most interesting observation about all of this.
Well, yeah, I think the worst thing to happen to the Packers this year has been Pat McAfee. I mean, let's be honest. Think about this. Whether it's, a conversation about Mike Tomlin, whether it was back in the offseason when Adam Schefter was like, hey, if you could just give, Aaron Rodgers the truth serum. It's like, no, he doesn't need a truth serum. He needs his scotch and Pat McAfee. And he's going to tell you exactly what he is thinking. And it's going to cause a talk about everything about his future. Does he want to be there? How mad is he still at the organization? The reality is he's playing at a ridiculously high level, which he's been doing for a while now. And it's like these little kind of, conversations with Pat, every week where you go, wait a minute, what's that supposed to mean? Is it a shot? Wait, has he made up with them? It's just a distraction going forward. It's amazing, really.
You're 100% right. I think we have all, if there's one thing we can all agree upon, is that McAfee is a menace and he must be contained. That said, Dominique, we sit here, we love to analyze and sort of break down everything that Aaron Rodgers says and guess what he's thinking. So now he says, it didn't feel like the last time he's walking off Soldier Field. What did that mean?
I don't know. What is it supposed to feel like? I don't understand what it feels like for your last time somewhere. And when I read the quote, it made me feel like maybe Packers fans could draw some type of confidence from this, that he's coming back. But then when I heard the quote, it was different. He was saying, I was anticipating. I was wondering how it's going to feel to walk off the field. So to me, that suggests he was like, at the beginning of that game, he was like, this is my last game here. And then he walk off the field. Right. Oh, it doesn't feel like my last game. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm not feeling any more confident if I'm Packers fans, but I do love Pat McAfee giving us something to talk about every Wednesday.
Yeah, so Fowler, what are we hearing from inside there? How do things seem to be going when he's not on McAfee's show?
Yeah, because I have follow-up questions about that. But
yeah.
From what I was told, as soon as he's been back in the building, it's been about football, and that means it's been smooth there. There really has been no talk about what happened in the offseason. A player told me that as soon as he showed up for training camp, there was a renewed spirit with the offense. Okay, we're going to lift off again here, and we're going to be pretty good as long as number 12 is in there. And so it was also pointed out to me it's very important that Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers have had a strong relationship, and that has continued. They work well together. So regardless of the issues of the front office, right now it's about the head coach and the quarterback, and those things are good.
All right, so one way or the other, they're running away with the division.
He's unpredictable like that. He's predictable he's predictable on the field, yes. But he's unpredictable and dramatic off the field, which would make me nervous and concerned, but it's better than having most of the quarterbacks in the league, so you deal with it.
He is predictable in his unpredictability. We're rolling along here. Speaking of drama,
ESPN tonight, Friday on ESPN.
All right, back on Get Up. Jeremy Fowler, busy day. Let's run the hurry up through NFL news. What do we have?
Let's start with Le'Veon Bell, part of the 2016 All-Star team in that Ravens backfield. Now, he is back. He is promoted to the active roster. He was on the practice squad, but they activated him twice. Had to sign him, couldn't activate him a third time. I actually texted with Bell this offseason. He said he wanted to go to a team that emphasized the running back. He felt he was still in his prime, had good years left, didn't want to waste any more time. Now he gets his opportunity. Great story in Baltimore. Let's go to the Broncos. We got Teddy Bridgewater. The Broncos expect him to be available. He hurt his foot late in that game against the Raiders, kind of got it caught up underneath some offensive linemen on a passing play, but I'm told he's progressed pretty well. He's been limited in practice, but feeling better, and so they're managing his foot over the next 24 hours or so, but they do expect him to play. Now, the Broncos are not as beat up as the Browns for this game. 11 Broncos on the injury report, but 19 Browns on the injury report. Brutal game, really, for both teams, especially Cleveland. Now, Cliff Kingsbury, you see him there. I'm hearing the Cardinals are at least somewhat optimistic that Kingsbury will be available to them for Sunday's game. Now, he's got to pass through the COVID-19 protocol. He's got to put together 2 consecutive negative tests within 24 hours. But this isn't like a player where you have to go through some extra conditioning. He just has to be symptom-free and get through those tests. But I was told from somebody with the Cardinals that regardless of whether Kingsbury is there or not, they love what Kyler Murray is doing with the offense with his own play calling. He checked from a pass play to a run play early in that Browns game for a 40-yard gain. They think he's taking full ownership.
Mayfield says he is still preparing to play tomorrow night against the Broncos, but the situation is complicated. Here's Baker with more.
Only I know how my body feels. And if anyone questions whether, I'm hindering the team and going out there injured, that's just not right. So it's my decision. I get to say, whether I'm able to play or not, and that's just how it is. Obviously, if I was in a physical state where I wasn't able to play to the best of my abilities and I was hurting the team, I wouldn't do that because I care about winning and I want to give this team the best position to do that. So that's just what it's about.
Okay, fill us in here. Jeremy Fowler, Dominique Foxworth, Tim Hasselbeck with us here. Jeremy, my insider extraordinaire. What can you tell us about the injury and where it's going?
Greeny, I just checked in with a source on this. I was told that nothing firm has been decided. This is pretty much shaping up to be a game-time decision. He is seeking second opinions on that shoulder to figure out next steps. But the Browns are going to take the next 36 hours, see how he feels leading up to game time. But the implications are huge here because a torn labrum, he's going to need surgery. It just depends on whether he needs it now or whether he needs it after the season. The Browns are already out with 2 tackles up front, their best 2 running backs. So a lot for Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, to consider here.
And that really does set up a fascinating situation because here's a player in Baker Mayfield who bet on himself this year and is playing beyond the season for extraordinary amounts of money. If he gets the surgery now, it essentially shuts down the rest of his season. This is a tough spot for him to be.
I mean, I hate to see it. He is being very tough in this situation. He seems like a very tough guy, but they don't pay you for toughness. No one's going to reward him for fighting through this and playing poorly. If he was coming off of a series of really good games and he got the surgery now, then it's fine. He can use that to springboard him to a big contract. But if he finishes the season and then gets the surgery at the end of the season, that could hurt a little bit too, but it's not on his throwing shoulder. So now he's in a tough situation, and I know he's not thinking about, or at least he'll tell us he's not thinking about his contract right now, but he needs to play very well in a situation where he's not 100% going forward, and that's a really bad place to be.
Look, when someone has $150 million riding on the outcome of something, it's not criticizing them to say it's reasonable that would be a part of their decision-making. Tim Hasselbeck, how do you see all of this? And let's analyze what a quarterback, some will say, well, it's not the throwing shoulder. Obviously, this is a significant injury. How do you think this impacts his ability to lead this team back from this problem?
Well, I think it's a big problem for him in terms of his ability to lead the team. Look, here's the situation with him. He is a good player, not a great player. And now he is a good player that's at about, 70% at best. And I thought it was really interesting when he talked after the game. We all saw the hit, from J.J. Watt where he re-injures that shoulder. But then he said after the game, so he dislocated his shoulder then, and then it slipped out one other time in a non-contact situation. That is where I think it was like, whoa, wait a minute. The instability in his shoulder is obviously something that's a big problem, and I think is going to continue to be a big problem going forward. You can harness it, you can do all those things, but if it's sliding out in non-contact situations, I think there's a very real possibility that he's got to get it fixed before the season's over. It's one thing to have a partially torn labrum. It's another thing to have it completely torn, which is also what it sounds like. And I'm just not sure he's going to be able to avoid it.
And that's the reality. This is an injury you were telling us before. This doesn't get better with rest. It's going to have surgery at some point. It's just a question of when.
There's no blood flow. It's not muscle, so it's not going to heal. You have to